What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Sportuniverse podcast where sports are our universe. It's just me today, me being Brian. I'm just gonna try and solo this thing out to get a podcast up for this weekend. It's a little different doing it solo compared to having other co-hosts, I guess you would call them. But I'm going to try it for this week, and then they'll be back next week. So let's get into it. Okay, so this week, a lot of big things happened in the NBA. From the NBA Finals, the Raptors winning, injuries in the NBA Finals, and just yesterday, the Anthony Davis trade. I don't know really where to start because all of them have to deal with each other, basically. So I guess I'll just start with the Raptors. The Raptors beat the Warriors 4-2 in the 2019 NBA Finals, making them the champions of 2019 and ending the Warriors dynasty, I guess you would call it, and kind of showing the NBA a different way of winning. That's not just about having 3-4 superstars, which is a very refreshing thing to see, and probably a lot of people were rooting for that. I was rooting for that because it makes for a different type of NBA, which is more fun. So we have been talking about what the legacy of Kawhi Leonard would be if he, first off, got the Raptors, a team that has never been to the finals, into the finals, and then if they were able to win the finals, and then even further, if they were able to beat the Warriors, who have been considered one of the best teams ever. 3 years ago, they were the statistical best team ever. So if he, not really alone, but he as basically the one or the main star on the Raptors. The Raptors aren't a team like the Warriors who have multiple stars, so he was basically that star. If he was able to take a Raptors team that's never been to the finals, has had a history of really bad endings in the playoffs, to be able to take the team and beat the Warriors, that he would be catapulted up into some of the greatest players ever. Like the Michael Jordans, LeBron James. I don't think he's top 5. It's a stretch for me to say top 10 too, but he's definitely putting his name there. I don't want to say top 10 yet because I'm pretty sure he's like, how old is Kawhi Leonard? Kawhi Leonard's 27 years old. I don't want to say that he's top 10 yet because he's 27, but if he can play like this or even remotely close, is that the right terminology? Whatever. He's getting his name out there to the point that he could be considered one of the top by the end of his career, which he could be playing for another 10 years or even more. But Kawhi Leonard was a player. He's a quiet player, which in the NBA, usually the quiet players aren't like... They're very rare that they become stars or are stars. There's Tim Duncan, but Kawhi Leonard's a different type of quiet. He doesn't really show a lot of emotion, put himself out there and all those things, but he was able to quiet those haters that said that he wasn't as good as everyone thinks he is by just playing, which is not a lot of things. You don't see that a lot of time, is what I'm trying to say. However, when I was watching the end of the finals, I didn't watch the actual games because I've explained before that I get bored when it's not my team. But I was watching the end of the finals and different people looking back at the finals, and they were talking about if there's an asterisk next to the 2019 finals for the win for the 2019 finals win for the Raptors, and the asterisk is because of all the injuries that the Warriors had. They had the Kevin Durant injury, and then Klay Thompson. Both are going to be out for 2019, which we're going to get into how that affects. I mean, they're going to be out for 2019-2020 season, which we're going to get into about how that affects free agency. But the asterisk idea is always a thing that people discuss if that's a actual thing. I really don't. I definitely get that. The Warriors didn't have their full team there to actually play. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if I was just a Raptors fan, I'd be excited either way, but if I was like a Raptors player, I would definitely say that the finals, there's definitely some type of advantage in the finals for the Raptors, I'd say, which is surprising to say going against the Warriors, but with all the injuries that the Warriors had to star players and players that made the Warriors who they were for the past years, it's hard to say that there wasn't it's not an unfair advantage because that's what happens in basketball. But it's hard to say there wasn't an advantage for the Raptors being as healthy as they were. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard was a little injured, but he wasn't torn Achilles, torn ACL, injured. But yeah, I'd say that for me, looking at it, there's definitely an asterisk for me because obviously the Raptors were playing against a banged up team. But all these injuries came at basically solidified that the Warriors dynasty is over, which is very refreshing, I'd say. And I'd say the same for a lot of people. Because now I'm going to get into how this affects free agency. Both Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant are free agents. When Kevin Durant went down with the torn Achilles. It was so annoying. I remember it happened in the middle of the night that it came out that the Warriors thing that he has a torn Achilles. I woke up in the middle of the night and my brother was still up. And he said, "Did you see the thing about Kevin Durant?" I was like, I knew somehow this wasn't going to turn out good. And I looked at my phone and of course it said torn Achilles. And it's just like, I have such bad luck with my teams, and the Knicks no one saw it that the Knicks weren't going to mess this situation up. No, that's not the right way to say it, but everyone assumed that the Knicks weren't going to be able to get Kevin Durant because the Knicks were going to mess something up. It wasn't the Knicks' fault this time, which is ironic, annoying, and funny. It's just so annoying that the person that the Knicks had their eye on since, I don't know when, and all Knicks fans hoped for, gets injured in the finals. And it's kind of crazy because the Warriors had kept him on the sidelines for so long because they didn't want it to get re-injured, and then he gets re-injured anyway. But the big question is first off, what team is Kevin Durant going to go to? And for me personally, if the Knicks should go after him still. So I'd say that the top contenders for him staying with the Warriors, the Nets or the Knicks. I really don't see him anywhere else. I'm going to go talk about the Nets for a little bit because I want to keep the Knicks talk after that because that's my team. For the Nets, the only way I see him going to the Nets or the Nets giving him a deal is if they get Kyrie Irving because they have Kyrie Irving for next year and they can still make the playoffs and everything like that, and then they can get Kevin Durant. But I think I see it the way these things coming around is Kevin Durant's going to sign first, then it's going to be Kyrie Irving because Kyrie Irving wants to go to a team that's going to be a contender, and even though it's not going to be next year, it'll be possibly 2 years. And I think that I just don't know if Kevin Durant's going to be Kevin Durant again because an Achilles can be a hard injury to come back from, but hopefully he can. That's what you got to hope for because I want him to be on the Knicks, and I'm just going to hope that he's the same. And I think to be honest, I think he's going to end up on the Knicks. I think the Knicks are willing to give him a max deal. I think they're willing to wait him out till he's not injured again. And I have been thinking if it's worth the max deal to sign Kevin Durant still. Like, if I was the GM, would I want to go after Kevin Durant anymore? I feel like if Kevin Durant isn't just it, and they get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, if Kevin Durant's the reason that they can get someone like Kyrie Irving, then yes. Because they can have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, keep all their young assets, let them develop again, and then come back even stronger when Kevin Durant is healthy, then I can definitely see that working and definitely get on that way of going about it. Because if they get Kyrie Irving and have all the young talent that they have from last year, I could see them being an 8th seed or a 7th seed or something like that. Especially if they're able to sign like some other free agents that aren't obviously max contracts because they only have 2 openings. I could see that working out really well and just the timing working out. So yeah, I think and then I wanted to talk about Kyrie Irving, but Kyrie Irving's interesting because it seems like he wants to go to the Nets, and I guess that makes sense for him because he was a Nets fan growing up. He was from New Jersey. But I just really want him on the Knicks. Like I was saying, that's the game plan I would go with for being a Knicks GM. It seems like Kyrie Irving wants to go to the Nets. If I had to guess, I don't want to. For some reason, I have it in my head that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are going to come to the Knicks either way. That's just me being hopeful. So I'm just going to guess that they're going to both come to the Knicks because I don't want to say the other thing. Because it's just been like, that's what I've been hoping for since the beginning of the season, and I just want it to happen. I just don't see... Kyrie Irving wants to go to the Nets, but I just don't see him going to the Nets. Yeah, I'm going to say that. Kyrie comes to the Knicks. They make the playoffs next year. And then when KD comes back, it'll all be well and dandy. That's a really optimistic way for me to think about it, but hopefully that happens. But I want to talk about the Anthony Davis trade a little bit because that was has a lot of different routes to take about talking about that trade. First off, from the Lakers' perspective, they gave up LeVar Ball. I mean, it's funny. I'll get into LeVar Ball later, but they gave up Lonzo Ball. Let me just make sure this is recording. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks, one of them being the 4th pick this year, for Anthony Davis. I don't know if they got anything else besides Anthony Davis, like maybe just to match up salaries and stuff like that. I don't know how that works. But either way, I mean, I feel like for the Lakers, Anthony Davis and LeBron James together is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a dynamic that I can't say we've seen before. Maybe like it could be like a Shaq-Kobe situation, but Anthony Davis is much more athletic than Shaq. LeBron James is a different player than Kobe Bryant is. That's the only type of comparison I could think. Because LeBron James, Chris Bosh, maybe that, but at the time I think Anthony Davis is better than Chris Bosh was when he was on the Heat. So it'll be very interesting. I think they still have Kyle Kuzma. They're going to need to get some help around that because they did give up a lot of their main players and they need some talent to put around Anthony Davis and LeBron James, which I don't see them having trouble to do because usually good role players want to go to teams that are possible contenders, like we saw DeMarcus Cousins, even though I don't really consider him a role player, but these players are willing to go to these teams because they want to get a ring. And I definitely see the Lakers as being a contender now with Anthony Davis, obviously. But then for the Pelicans, they're going to have like an insane young core. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, then whoever they draft 4th overall. Or maybe they want to trade away that 4th overall pick. But they're very well set up, and that trade really worked out for them because if you look at what the Knicks could have offered them, it's nothing close to what the Lakers gave them. I mean, Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball were their future. They weren't living up to their potential yet, but there was definitely a lot of hope that they would and a lot of evidence that they actually would become superstars or all-stars. Plus, they got 3 first-round picks. Josh Hart isn't a bad player. He's not all-star talent, I don't think, but he's definitely not a bad player. And from both perspectives, it was a good trade. I'm happy the Knicks didn't give up assets. But for the Lakers and Pelicans, I can't see a team specifically winning that trade because both the Lakers and Pelicans are going in different directions. I'd say the Lakers are trying to be finals contenders next year. The Pelicans obviously aren't. They're trying to rebuild, and they're well on their way now with all the players that they're going to have. And they could even make the playoffs next year. I could see if Zion plays to his potential, if all of them play to their potential, they could be a very good team next year. I can't really pick a winner because it's just different routes that they're taking. But when I saw that trade, I was kind of relieved that the Knicks didn't do what they have a history of doing, which is giving up all their assets for one player. Yeah. So, I'm going to get off the NBA now. Oh, actually, no. I wanted to talk about what I think the NBA Finals next season is going to look like. It's hard to say because everything's really in a whirlwind right now with the NBA, but it's going to be different next year. The Warriors aren't going to be the same. Even though they get Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson back, it's basically just going to be a Steph Curry show from the beginning of the year to the end. And Steph Curry's really good, but I don't think that he can carry them to another finals. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs, but maybe a 5th seed, 6th seed. It depends who they can get in free agency. But I don't think it's going to be the Warriors next season in the playoffs from the West. In the finals from the West. I feel like it might be Rockets now. I feel like they're well equipped to take over the Warriors' role. So I think it's going to be the Rockets from the West in the finals. And then from the East, I think it's going to be... I don't think it's going to be the Raptors. I think Kawhi Leonard's leaving. I don't think it's going to be the Celtics. Kyrie Irving's leaving. I'd say from the East, it's going to be the Bucks. I want to say the Knicks, but the Knicks aren't going to be in a position that they could have been if Kevin Durant wasn't injured. So I'd say Bucks, Rockets in the finals. Is probably that's my pick for the finals. Should be interesting how the NBA plays out next year. And it's going to be all based off what happens in the offseason and free agency. Okay, so now I'm going to go into our last 2 segments. First off, the favorite team segment. This is just my way of being able to talk about the Mets. Because the Mets are nowhere close to being newsworthy, except if you want to talk about their suckiness. Oh my god. The bullpen is so bad, and it's so annoying because they give away so much young talent for this bullpen to be good. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose. They get Jared Kelenic, other players in that deal. They get Edwin Diaz, who this week has been awful. And I mean, to be fair, this has been the only week that he's been really bad. But it just adds to my feeling about closers and bullpen arms that they're not worth trading the farm for, trading your future for. They're not worth trading for in general because they are so fickle with how they play. They could be good one season, bad another season. I'm not saying Edwin Diaz has been bad this season, but he hasn't been a player that has lived up to what he was supposed to be. And it's really annoying because they gave up so much for this bullpen, and every year this is the same problem that they have. And I don't understand how they can't have a good bullpen. And I can't even blame it on the front office or things like that because it's just bad luck. They sign all these players who are supposed to be good, and they are bad every single season. I shouldn't say every single season, but recently. I think the blame falls on Mickey Callaway because I don't think he knows how to use his bullpen correctly. I mean, just the other day when, with that rain out, the suspended game, they had to come back and play the ninth inning, the bottom of the ninth over after Edwin Diaz gave up the tying run the night before in the ninth inning, and then it was a rain out, and so they had to suspend the game. He used Edwin Diaz in the... how do I explain this without being confusing? So they suspended the games the next day, so they played the bottom of the ninth at 6:10, and then started the actual game at 7:10, so they had to finish the 6:10 game or 6:30. But he used Edwin Diaz in that first game. And I don't understand why he picked Edwin Diaz in that game when it wasn't even when it wasn't even a situation for a closer, and he didn't just wait till the next. That wasn't a good way of explaining it, but Mickey Callaway doesn't know how to use his bullpen at all. His in-game management is bad. I know that a lot of people say that in-game management isn't actually that important in MLB, but it's just an easy way to rank how your coaches are doing. But he's been just shown game after game how bad he is at this, using his bullpen. And I'm just going to focus on on the bullpen for the Mets right now, even though there's a lot of other sucky things that are going on. But it's just all a mess. And it's just so disappointing because the Mets basically gave out their future to have this year, and they haven't done anything. I don't know what next year or the year after that's going to be for them, but I felt that this was their year to... I mean, I feel like this every year, but I thought that Brody Van Wagenen had set it up that they were going in this year, and they had showed that they were trying to with all the free agencies, the trades, everything they had done had shown that they were going for it this year, but it just hasn't worked out, and that's really upsetting. Usually we talk about the Yankees because Nick is a Yankees fan, and Jonathan is as well. He's also a Mets fan, but Nick and Jonathan aren't here, so we're just going to skip the Yankees, and then we're going to go into our last segment, which is the controversial topic. Okay. So the controversial topic for this week, I wanted to keep it kind of not the best debate. I wanted to keep it kind of something that I could just really talk about and not be a debate about. So I did if the Redskins should change their name, because I wanted to keep the debates for when they're back and there's other people on the show. So I'm just going to talk about if the Redskins should change their name. I did a project about this in 11th grade, I think. And for me, there's no reason why the Redskins should not have to change their name. I get that it's marketing and their merchandise is all Redskins and everything, and that's what they've been. But there's no reason that I can think of why it's fair for them to have the name Redskins. And that also goes for the Cleveland Indians and anything that has anything to do with the Native Americans. The one argument that people say, there's a lot of arguments for the other side, but one argument they say is that it's a part of their culture, the Washington culture, being Redskins fans. And that doesn't make sense to me. I'm a fan, and if the Mets have to change their name, which they don't because it's not racist like the Redskins is, I could get over it. Like, it's going to take a couple years, but I can get used to them being a different name. So what's the reason that they haven't changed it? And I don't know the answer. There should be no reason that they don't have to change their name. I think the Cleveland Indians is disrespectful. I think the Washington Redskins is disrespectful. There was another thing that is disrespectful, but I forgot what it was. But anything that makes a group of people, teases a group of people and makes a slight joke or a slight joke at people, like, I mean, if you think of the names of teams, there's the Blue Jays, the Tigers, the White Sox, Red Sox. Like, these team names are supposed to be, like, not, like, a group of people. And I think using such derogatory language like the Redskins or the Indians is so bad. And I think, to be honest, I think the Indians is worse. But, like, now that I'm thinking about it, because the Indians, I mean, they're definitely talking about the Native Americans, and the Indians aren't who they are. The Indians were made by Christopher Columbus gave the name Indians to these people, and now we're just going to use the Indians and then obviously a Native American man as their logo. That seems totally disrespectful and totally out of line. Oh, and also the Braves, when they do the chop, that's disrespectful and inappropriate, and I think that there has to be some type of Donald Trump isn't going to force anything on them because Donald Trump doesn't care. I'm sorry for all the Republicans out there, but I don't see Donald Trump as trying to change something. I don't see the NFL caring because the NFL is run by money-hungry people, and they aren't going to want the Redskins to lose money, which would cause the NFL to lose money. I'm personally surprised that the Indians still are the Indians. And I'm surprised the Braves still do the chop and that's still allowed. I'm going to look up what I'm trying to figure out what Redskins actually means. I know it's not like a good term for people to use. Here, I'll read this. I'm just reading this article. Okay, I'm just going to read you this article. It's from Inc.com. It's about, here's why the Washington Redskins should change their name. Okay. For years, the name Redskins has been a point of controversy. Opponents of the name have gathered significant support from U.S. senators, from President Obama, from broadcasters and columnists, from civil rights organizations, and from tribal leaders. In response, team owner Daniel Snyder vowed to USA Today that he would never change the name. Never, he said. You can use all caps. His position on the team name and the opposition to that name is not only a public relations issue, it's a problem at a business level. There's an ongoing legal battle over teams' federal trademark registrations, as well as the destination of the next stadium. Name customers is incorrect, but the results. Okay, so one of the big things on the other side is that there's a Washington Post poll that said that 9 of 10 Native Americans weren't offended by the team's name. I mean, it's interesting, but I feel like that might just be, like, maybe, I don't want to speak for the Native Americans, but to me that seems like derogatory, and America should be well past having any of these issues, and it's just so annoying that they still do. I mean, the Americans, what they did to Native Americans is a terrible thing. Let me continue reading. According to the article, Susan Harho, the plaintiff in the trademark case, said, "I would just reject the results. I don't agree with them, and I don't agree that this is a valid way of surveying public opinion in the country." However, the proud residence does not give the NFL a license to continue marketing, promoting, and profiting off a dictionary definition, racial slur, one that tells people outside of our community to view us as mascots. Yeah, so that's what I was trying to get at, and it wasn't going to be good. It puts the Indians or Native Americans as a mascot. And mascots are usually animals or silly things, but mascots shouldn't be a group of people. From a business perspective, there are a number of issues. Changing the name would mean significantly change the branding and license product. Washington is the third most valuable. Is the third most valuable NFL franchise at $2.85 billion. So obviously the NFL wouldn't want to change it. Some fans will resent the change. On the flip side, changing the name might have stadium location negotiations easier and eliminate an ongoing public relations problem. Talks internally about valuing diversity and inclusion, making it really hard to walk your talk when your team is considered. Yeah. So that's another thing. That's actually a really good point. So, I mean, in 2019, we're supposed to be valuing inclusion, diversity, and if your company name's the Redskins and one of your things is we value inclusion and diversity, but your company name is the Redskins, how does that work? That doesn't make sense to me. And then he says there's one more reason. Please don't call me that. How would you respond? Would you argue? Would you defend your right to free speech? Would you... yeah, that's true. Okay, I'm just going to read one more article because I feel like there's something... Okay, this is interesting. This is why the Washington Redskins shouldn't change their name. So I'll just go through that, and then we'll end the podcast. Over the past few years, debate regarding the potential negative connotation of the Washington Redskins team has gained substantial attention. The start of the... Okay, so this says, statistics on the subject are, this is from breezejmu.org. I read the statistics on the subject are providing overwhelming evidence that the offense produced by the name isn't nearly as powerful as it's believed to be by so many. Even if that's true, there's still offense behind it. I mean, there was 9 out of 10 people that said it wasn't offensive. What about that one person that did? If something's offensive at all, it should be eliminated. There's so many other names that you could call this team. No matter how painful being one happens to be, yet I'll put my team-centered bias in ground. Rather, I'll defend my opinion using meaningful. Okay. Although many have come to understand the origin of the Redskins' name as being innocent, it bears repeating. Founded in 1932, the city of Boston, the football team was rather oddly named after one of the city's baseball teams, the Boston Braves, with the team name Braves referencing the Native American population. In an effort to end the confusion created by having two of the city's major sports teams operate under the same name, team owner George Preston Marshall decided after just one season to alter the team's name. The name was Boston Redskins until 1937 when the franchise moved to our nation's capital, becoming the Washington Redskins. It's therefore evident that there was no ill will in naming. I wouldn't say that creating I didn't think that there was ill will in creating the name Redskins, but it's still a derogatory term. In order to provide this debate with the fairness it deserves, it should be mentioned that in disagreement with rather common claims by those. Yeah, this isn't really giving me any new information. I'm just going to end the podcast there. Personally, to me, Redskins should have to change the name, the Indians should have to change the name, the Braves shouldn't be allowed to do the chop anymore. I feel like all of that's derogatory, and America should be past that. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. That was another Sportuniverse podcast. Only me this time. Obviously not as fun as having other co-hosts, but they weren't free, which totally makes sense. So we'll be back next week. Hopefully the whole gang will be there, the whole podcast crew. Let us know what you thought of this solo podcast. If you liked it, didn't like it, any comments you have. Check out our other videos on YouTube. Highlight videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and podcasts on the weekend. I'm thinking of possibly doing one a week, like an analysis thing where, like, if there's a big moment in a game or something like that, I analyze it, similar to what SportsCenter does and ESPN does. Just like maybe like a 3-minute video every week of analysis, maybe. I don't know, tell me what you think about that. I just posted on Friday Fernando Tatis Jr. video, doing pretty well. We have 25 subscribers at the time I'm recording this. Keep on subscribing. Keep on looking at our articles on sportuniverse.com. We're trying to post more often on there, but we need more writers to help us write keep our articles coming. If you have any interest in writing for us or editing videos for us, contact sportuniverse2019@gmail.com. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'm feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. I'm flying cloud nine, my head's in the sky. I'm solo, I'm riding solo, I'm riding solo, I'm riding solo, solo. Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. Finally me and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like.